In today's episode of Quick Chat, I speak to Nick, founder of Secret Sauce, who shares his extensive journey in marketing, highlighting the importance of mentorship, the founding of his agency Secret Sauce, and the evolving landscape of marketing strategies. He discusses the significance of RevOps, common pitfalls in marketing, and the role of technology, particularly AI, in shaping future marketing efforts. Nick also offers valuable advice for aspiring entrepreneurs, emphasizing the need for persistence and a supportive network. If you found this episode interesting, please leave a like, and I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below.
How are we doing, Nick? Really appreciate you being here and taking the time to join this podcast. I'd love it if you could almost start from the top and almost walk me through your journey in marketing to this point.
Right, no, lovely to be here. Thanks for the invite, David. So yes, I started in marketing from the sort of bottom rung of the ladder, if you like, from being put into a business of when I was a sort of marketing coordinator. And originally, my career was going to be in the Royal Marines.
Okay,
wow. Yes, so before I was about to join up, I got a job in sort of City Street, as it were. And at university, I studied geography and business studies. And in the business studies area, I also did marketing modules. And I loved the marketing modules because they were practical. They had people from industry come in and speak to us. And it just really, really appealed to me. So before I was about to join the armed forces, I got this job, an absolutely fantastic job, where they said, we'd like you to come in and sort of help run our marketing for us. It was quite a small business at the time. And I did, and I learned loads from some mentors that were in the business that sort of took me under their wing and showed me what marketing was really like. And I sort of learnt my trade there. So I learnt the hard way with no resources and nothing around me, having to do everything from designing flyers and brochures through to running events globally around the world. So it was tons of fun. But I learnt loads in a very short space of time. And then during that time, I then sort of progressed into sort of more management roles. And then my sort of calling, as it were, was to grow marketing teams. So I was put to businesses to say, right, marketing, we've got to, I'm sort of, you can tell by the grey hairs, David, that obviously this is way back when marketing was still a developing sort of position, still developing sort of trade. So I've seen it change over the decades, which shows you how old I am. From marketing being, brochures and websites weren't even a thing when I was first starting off.
Wow.
Through to digital marketing and what it is now.
So, you mentioned something I think that's quite interesting around being thrown into the deep end and about having those mentors. I'd just love to get your take on almost how important mentorship is, especially in the early days, and what advice maybe you'd give to people looking for a mentor.
That's a good question. So the mentors I had were heads of industry, and they had chosen the company where I worked to sort of this was their sort of final hurrah, if you like, before they sort of retired. So they had tons of knowledge. They were sort of heads of quite big, large conglomerate organizations, global organizations. So obviously there was little old me, trying to do everything with a minimal budget, and the rest of it trying to cover all bases. So it was really quite important. They sort of taught me a no messing type approach.
Right.
A sort of action orientated, by objectives type style marketing approach. So yes, we were doing all the nice looking stuff and the outward views, but we're actually looking at the numbers behind the scenes and breaking that journey down. And that's what they taught me. And they were really patient. I think in a mentor, they'd be really patient. They let me get things wrong. I wasn't scared to get things wrong, and they let me be a bit braver. So I was learning sort of on the job, as it were. And during that time, all they were doing is guiding and focusing me, not taking over or telling me what to do. They were just there as a guide, and that was super useful. So if you can inside business, try and find somebody, and even at the senior level, even now, I have a non-executive director who's mentoring me now. There are other external sources that I use, and peer-to-peer as well, other people in senior marketing roles that we will bounce off each other. So that's quite important, even to whatever stage of your career you're in.
Yeah, that's definitely something that's really important. And I'd love to know almost how being thrown into the deep end has sort of shaped your experience through marketing, and almost if you can walk me through again now just how important that was and overcoming those challenges into setting up Secret Source.
Right. So yes, because I sort of learned the hard way. Again, having nothing around it, almost sometimes no marketing budget,
Mm-hmm.
no fellow marketeers, or the rest of it. I had to be fairly creative, innovative,
Sure.
so and sort of think on my feet and work out how I was going to help grow that business, because effectively it was my survival as well.
Mm-hmm.
The business didn't grow; they wouldn't need a marketing department or the rest of it. So yes, I would lean on the mentors quite a bit, who would
Mm-hmm.
sort of help shape the direction. But I was always picking on different things that I thought would help differentiate us from the competition.
Sure.
I would do combine a lot of market research and those sort of outbound marketing sort of style tactics. We were already looking at inbound sort of style marketing tactics. The types of products we were sort of selling were sort of quite big ticket items. So we
Okay.
had to sort of we had to think about inbound marketing tactics that people could find us, availability, awareness, acceptability, that type of thing, and would actually come and find us there.
Amazing. I'd love to know as well, almost a bit more about Secret Source and sort of what inspired you to start the company as well. How did you determine there was a gap in the market?
Right. So many years in marketing and then marketing leadership roles, I've worked with many agencies over that time, and some really fantastic ones globally, and some niche ones as well. It's not just the large agencies, but I was working with PR agencies, I was working with SEO agencies, website agencies, and the rest of it. And then sort of my role became sort of handling all these types of relationships, which was fine, absolutely fine. But what we had to do is we had to sort of think of the brief, and we had to brief them properly. And there's a skill in that in itself for any marketing leader. We had to brief them properly and then make sure, almost like man mark, and make sure the project was moving in the right direction, because it was a commitment on our part. The risk was on us. And during that process, like I said, I worked with some fantastic agencies all around the world. But what I found is it was the accountability, I think, with regards to our number. So in that respect, I was asked to judge the agency awards for a couple of years, which I did, and I absolutely loved that, with the view that the best agencies would come to me, and they did. There were some amazing campaigns, don't get me wrong, David, but what I was finding was the number that I had, the KPI on me, there wasn't that relationship back in the day. They were generating the things we asked them to generate and executing on that until the next campaign. It was quite a transactional relationship.
Sure.
So I thought, wouldn't it be nice if you had an agency, the agency that I'd want to work with, that was proactive, that actually rang you up out the blue and said, just tried this over here, Nick. We think it would work for you, or don't do that, Nick, because it's not going to get to the KPI or the deliverables or ROI that you actually need, short, medium, and long term.
Right.
And so rather than just sit there and sort of moan about it or the rest of it, wouldn't it be nice, goaded on by fellow peers, they said, why don't you do something about it? Put your money where your mouth is. And that's how Secret Source was born. And how we earned our name, really, was that we were sort of not outwardly promoting ourselves. We were just in the engine room with the senior marketing and sales leaders and SLT and even investors, just working diligently to grow these businesses. And got referred to as obviously their secret weapon and their resource as well. So Secret Source name was sort of born out of that, really. Sort of quite a reserved sort of team working alongside on the deliverables. So more sort of helping with the marketing engine room. And then obviously the outward promotion helps those businesses grow. So we sort of earned our name, not named ourselves. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I think something interesting you mentioned is, in your past experience sort of working with these agencies, a lot of the campaigns were maybe transactional in nature, or the nature of the work you were doing them was more transactional.
Yes.
And I'd love to know, almost now with Secret Source, how you identify when a client is ready to scale and how you sort of guide them through a sustainable growth path rather than being more transactional in nature.
Again, yes, that's the multifaceted answer to that. We're quite fortunate the way we get a lot of referrals from companies that have used us before.
Sure.
And so therefore, companies who are either about to scale or currently scaling, which is different to growing. There's growing and then there's scaling, which is sort of really, really going for it. That's either in their domestic market or globally, or even with different products or mergers and acquisitions. Those companies tend to find us and say, they usually have really talented people internally, but they sort of, again, need a guide. Someone that's sort of done it before, learned all the challenges and all the rest of it, all the pitfalls, bear traps to sort of avoid. And that's what we become. We sort of become the guide. So yes, we do the marketing and the rest of it, but we also tell them where to invest the right type of resources and budget, of course, to get the desired result. And how we do that slightly differently, it's a secret sauce really, is we sort of almost don't treat it as marketing. We get described as a revenue operations agency, RevOps. And what that means is obviously we're not just looking at the campaigning and getting the lead generation and the rest of it, but we're also looking at the entire journey, the customer user journey. And that is from the processes, the data, and also then the tech stack. And that's really where we found our niche, is we will build a tech stack understanding the other two main areas, data and processes, and actually then develop campaigns that you can report on and that will work to help grow the business, as in revenue operations, grow the business and get the right type of customers moving through the funnel, as it were, or the channel in the correct way.
That's really interesting as well, because you mentioned a lot about the back end that goes into a campaign or into a marketing strategy. And I'd love to get your perspective on how you're ensuring that marketing leaders really effectively leverage RevOps to refine their strategy, and what are the kind of common pitfalls that you see when they're implementing these processes?
Right. So, yeah, revenue operations is almost a sort of a vision, as it were. It's they're probably doing element of RevOps in what they're doing day to day, otherwise they wouldn't be in business, because obviously it's building revenue. But how they look at it is sort of where we add the value. So we have a few live examples in different areas of their sort of trajectory where they are in their growth curve, and we'll look at that and then we'll work out exactly what they need in which order. And the truthful answer is they need a bit of everything, really. They've probably focused on tech stack to build what they need to do, but they need to refine their processes. They're probably not joined up as well. They probably collected too much stack, as it were. There's lots of people trying to, do what's best for the business of collecting lots of different. So we tend to sort of look at it as holistically and refine that, and then work out where the efficiencies can be gained. So we're actually sort of saving money as well as then obviously investing as well. And then we sort of break that story down, break that journey down. We've got various different sort of audits and phases that we can roll out. By the end of it, this is nirvana, because there's always a process to refine. It's never done. The ones that say, yes, we're done with RevOps aren't looking at the right way. It's never done. It's like painting the fourth bridge. You always have to sort of keep refining and tweaking. So that's where we build up long-term relationships. And that's really good for our business, because we're not just in rolling campaigns and all the rest of it in very short-termism. We're actually looking at the company as a whole. Because we understand it, we help wire it up. That sort of keeps us in the game, as it were.
I'd love to know, almost then from a client perspective, you mentioned that, there's no nirvana, RevOps is never done. How do you almost manage client expectations then throughout that process?
It's difficult. RevOps has to sort of be driven from the top, because, like I say, it's not a just switch it on, just add water, and there you go, you're done. So it needs to be driven from the top. So there is a bit of a leap of faith. But so we start off almost like an education phase. And what we tend to do is we tend to sort of spend time on showing them the current state. So we learn quite a lot about the current state. And then once we sort of hold that mirror up to either the SLT team or indeed operations teams, they can start to see themselves. What they've always known to be true is there's some inefficiencies and there's some gaps. So we build future state where somebody goes, yes, I know all this. I want to move keen to move to the future. So, and then from that, we build the future state, and then all the bridges and pathways in between to get from current to future. Now, this involves a lot of stakeholders, a lot of buy-in. So, yes, we'll have some champions inside the organization. Sometimes people have a RevOps leader that can look everything. Not always the case. So it is not just one person's job, we feel. It is a combined group effort. So from the top down, but also everybody playing their part to make sure that all the bits of the machine are then going to run efficiently.
And you mentioned holding up the mirror to the client and some of those inefficiencies. I'd love it if you could almost walk me through what are the typical sort of inefficiencies that you see in a business.
Good question. And like I say, what the common ones we see, no matter what size, what sector, what culture, where they operate, is a lot of people have developed their own tech stack or their own processes in their respective areas, be it sales, marketing, service, ops. And so they try to do what's best. They're in charge of that area and they try to do what's best for their area and all the rest of it. But they are sort of operating in silos. And where we see sort of flashes of brilliance, on the whole, there's some inefficiencies in a joined up process that not a joined up process. So it'll move from a marketing MQL to an SQL to a delivery, and then hopefully back round again. It's all very sort of disjointed.
Sure.
So we tend to come in and work out, actually, there's a process that needs to run. There's a line, touch points with the particular client. So we can work out some efficiency straight away there. And because everyone's been trying to do the best for their particular area, they've probably either invented or developed processes, collected tech stack to sort of fill the gaps. So AI is a classic example. But before that, everyone was empowered to sort of go and get their own solutions, be it in sales, marketing, service. And none of them would talk to each other, or there was replication. So when we hold up a mirror, they can see immediately that there's not one nice, neat process. There's several. Therefore, there's dead ends, there's drop-offs. It's good old-fashioned communication, David, really. So sometimes they're all that process in between where they sort of hand over to people. And RevOps process needs to sort of flow. It needs to almost be multi-channel, omni-channel in itself of where it goes. So we're able to identify that and then obviously start to turn things off effectively, which is always a worry to clients. But then they start to see the benefits of that, and then we start to wire it up in the correct sort of way.
Amazing. And we've obviously discussed sort of inefficiencies from a more kind of operational perspective. I love it because you've obviously cut your teeth through the years in marketing. If you've picked up any common mistakes that you've seen being made in marketing efforts and almost what your advice would be to people that are looking to avoid them.
There's lots been written about this, and there's multitude of YouTube videos and podcasts and TED lectures on this. So to be sort of slightly different, I would probably say persistency, which is quite an odd one. So I do find, especially in this day and age where, people are throwing things like AI and various things at certain situations, is it's sort of fail fast and then never sort of look at that again. Certain things need time to bed down. Certain things probably didn't have a good start to start off with, maybe poor data or poor processes, as we discussed. So they haven't been given the time to succeed. And I think that short-termism, again, is sort of quite rife. So sometimes a good idea it is a good idea for a reason. And so if you can see that through and have that persistence, but there's so many challenges on sales, marketing, CEOs at the moment to deliver those results consistently over time, sort of short term, that sometimes the more long-term visions can be sort of thrown away or discarded. So I would say persistence in the marketing strategy is key, because you're not just thinking quarterly or yearly, you are thinking 3-5 years down the line, actually building a business.
And I guess from that, I'd love to almost challenge you on that, because how do you balance that need for being persistent with probably the ability to be agile and pivot when a campaign isn't necessarily going well?
Yes, really good point. It is difficult. I think statistics are good, data, confidence in your data is good. Understanding your marketplace and the sort of micro and macro environment as well. Things can be seasonal, you've got so many variables at play, including competitors and whole governments moving things around. So I think if you're true in your data and you understand and you've got a vision and a roadmap to get there, I think, and everybody can get behind that, I think you can hold your course, see it through the rough patches, and then get to that end result. Sometimes the more prized prized sort of end goals are sometimes the hardest path you can go down. So, sometimes trying to do the right thing, even when it feels tough, can be hard to do. But if you've got confidence in your systems and your processes, data coming in from all sorts of variables, and you can sail through those storms to get to the side. That is sort of, to use the analogy, then that's sort of what sort of where we see the most successful businesses.
Amazing. Wow, that's really interesting, and that's something that I see a lot. There's a lot of short-termism now, especially with the state of the economy and everything. A lot of people are trying to find the quick wins and potentially giving up a bit too easily.
Yes.
Something that I read about quite a bit as well is almost the evolution now of outbound and go-to-market strategies. And I'd love to get your take almost on what role do you see, how do you see outbound evolving now, and maybe what role does more targeted ABM have in this day and age?
Yes, so we've seen lots of different sort of facets in marketing as marketing's evolved and new technologies come on board, new ways of thinking. So yes, I was sort of, back in the day when inbound wasn't a thing, it was pretty much all outbound, and you had to sort of go out there and shout the loudest and shout the bestest and all the rest of it. And then obviously inbound is a lot more, it's more sustainable growth, predictable pipelines and the rest of it. There's a place for both, but certainly outbound, you can't beat pressing the flesh and going to meet people and all the rest of it. Instant dialogue with somebody, actually learning from them. We're in a race to digitize everything and the human touch. And I do believe there is a place for digitizing things to give you the time to get that strategic time. So we're all time poor. So if you can use the sort of inbound and then the sort of digital side of things and AI and things that help you be more front of house, learn about the customers, and then get that, you can't beat finding out what the challenges and pain points, not just the primary challenges in the sort of your persona that you're dealing with, but also the secondary and the tertiary challenges as well, because everyone's got home lives and all the rest of it. So by meeting people and having that hyper personalization, everyone expects personalization at the moment, but hyper personalization is a sort of key. Understanding what makes you tick, David, what challenges you've got, how I can help with those challenges, and then tailoring what I've got to offer you that's going to help the challenges specifically for you is sort of what everyone's striving for at the moment.
Absolutely, because we hear a lot about sort of AI and how you can now copy and paste someone's LinkedIn profile and try and personalize it like that. But that human element when you meet someone face to face, it definitely goes a long way. I guess speaking on technology as well, I'd love to get your take on how you see technology evolving and its role in marketing over the next few years.
Yes, absolutely. And just on the previous point, that's where account-based marketing and events and things like that are having a bit of a resurgence. So such as your event there, that's hyper-personalization, that's peer-to-peer. It's a safe environment. You can test things out. That really is sort of key to the future, really. That needs to be in your portfolio. When it comes to technology, obviously, again, we all know we can't just say, AI this, AI that. I think the way AI is ramping up. I mean, we had Moore's law, didn't we, with computing, and that was exponential. This is on steroids, isn't it? It's it shocked even the data analysts and people a lot cleverer than me and data scientists. It is just ramping up. We've got AI writing for AI, so the whole thing is just like snowballing. So I think obviously marketing can't ignore that. I think to actually use that in the correct way, not be overly reliant on it, I think is key. I think that using technology, it used to be multi-channel is obviously a thing. You're putting your marketing out and sales out on various different channels. Omni-channel is really nirvana. So having information flow through the different solutions that are out there. So somebody can be on one social platform and then another social platform, all the way through to websites and communications, to meeting people, to webinars, through to a physical store. And that journey is mapped out and flowing. That omni-channel really is, it's easy to say and think about, incredibly hard to do, because you've got different platforms wanting to keep you on their platform,
On
quite
that platform.
rightly. So even the things you'll notice, like Google, you go to Google where you'd find the answer and you'd be off. They're trying to keep you on the platform. So you have videos embedded in there. You have short AI answers to your question. It's all trying to keep you there because obviously they're sort of being rivaled by answers you can get from ChatGPT or Jasper or anything like that. So
Exactly.
yes, using technology, it's become a bit sort of like overwhelming, I think, to some people. And they're probably using things like AI for sort of some of the wrong reasons to sort of, fix a problem or give them the answer. So I think there's some level of cautiousness, I think. But yes, the people that can really sort of wire that up, in their strategy will be the winners.
And what are some of the wrong reasons that you're talking about?
I think while it can get you there sometimes quicker, give you sort of 80%, not be overly reliant on it. So it's even like the first days of email scams. Remember those?
Yeah.
And it caught a few people out. But then over time, people got this sort of sixth sense where they go, that doesn't feel right. It looks fine, looks like it doesn't feel right. And I think AI is a bit the same. You can sort of tell. I mean, we've got people who work here that can sort of tell which engine it's sort of come from based on the comment. So people are getting used to, it coming out of these sort of systems. And of course, they're getting cleverer and cleverer. So that's where it's used wrong. And I think a lot of solution providers out there are coming up with what they call AI agents. So there's an agent for this, an agent for that. Again, you can race in and use something for the wrong reasons. The really switched on platform providers creating agents that fix that particular challenge, fix that particular problem, and I think that's fascinating.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Nick, you've been in marketing for a few years. You've taken the risk to become an entrepreneur. You set up Secret Source. I'd love to know if you have any pieces of advice for maybe other marketers that are looking to get into entrepreneurship as well.
Don't do it unless you want lots of great names.
Nick, at least you've got hairs, Nick.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I'm fully supportive of that, of course. Obviously, a lot of people go from sort of agencies into client side and sort of back the other way. I've sort of gone sort of that way. And obviously a newfound respect for anybody been running agencies, I'd have to say, or anybody running any business, to be fair. Obviously, I was always a sort of a director sitting around a board table with lots of other very clever people. So, yeah, massively exposed. Definitely the harder path. Anything you thought about yourself literally just disappears. It really does expose your weaknesses.
Yeah.
And I think you have to sort of build yourself up. So experience and knowledge is a great thing. Surround yourself by different people. If you're going as a sort of solopreneur, then yes, you still need to surround yourself by good people, because otherwise you burn out pretty quick. As I experienced, I thought I could do it all, and I thought sort of I've done this before, and then I realised I was in a very sort of slightly different world, and I had to sort of be a bit of a chameleon and adjust to that world. Where I wanted to be wasn't quite where I was, so I had to sort of work out the stepping stones to get to the next sort of lily pad, as it were, to be able to sort of go to. Again, frustration, patience, all these things come into lack of resources. All these things come into the sort of emotional. It's a really emotional roller coaster. You're up there 1 minute and sort of down here, and then you sort of and it can change in an instant. So many variables. But that's, if you're into that and you like that sort of environment and you sort of thrive in that environment, definitely for you. Yes, every day.
Yeah, because you bring up something interesting. I think there's two things there. One is recovering from the burnout, but secondly, you're almost in the wilderness and finding that next step to the next lily pad, for example. So I'd love to ask you almost how A, you recovered from the burnout, and B, how did you find that next step as well?
Good question. Again, surrounding yourself by good people. Having a vision, I think, is very important. So if you know where you're heading and all the rest of it, then any sort of deviation off that path, you're able to sort of straighten that up and carry on for the vision. And then on that path, you'll need various, as they say, all heroes need a guide. Any Hollywood movie you watch, there's always somebody that is there to sort of help guide. And that's what you need is if you're going to run an agency. I think you need other people inside your organization, but outside your organization. Even clients can teach you a few things. Yes, we're the specialists, we're the experts, and we sort of tell them what to do. But what comes back, we just absorb, learn, and go again. So yeah, I think when times are tough, to be able to lean on people and then them lean on you when it's vice versa, I think is really, really key.
Definitely.
Otherwise, it's a very lonely life, and you do second guess yourself, even if you know you're right. And every now and second guess yourself. To have a sounding board there, people that you trust around you, and indeed not just yes people, just people who's going to challenge you as well, I think is really key.
Definitely. Nick, I really appreciate your time on this one. I definitely learned a lot, and I definitely think my viewers will too. Thanks so much.
Thank you. No, thanks for having us.